Welcome to the May meeting of the Courthouse Square Historic Preservation Commission. And let's look at our agenda today. We've got one administrative approval and one public hearing. Do we hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And the agenda is approved. And let's look at our minutes from March 7, which were emailed to you. That was just one case. Do we have any additions, corrections to wasn't last month, it was March, right? Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved from last time, and we've got one administrative approval from D Squared. Thank you for taking care of that to our staff. And now we will look at our first public hearing. Ben, can you hear us? Is he just listening?
Yes, I can hear you now. I'm sorry. I had to put my earbuds in.
Oh, okay. We miss you. Welcome. Let's look at public hearing number 408, and this is a re-look at the park right next door.
I'm just gonna have Mark present.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
All right. Should you see my screen?
Good afternoon, everyone. So Kate's summary and the staff comments gave you a good idea of where we are with this project. We're returning based on some comments and at the request of the commission to look at the finer details of the project. As you probably noticed when you walked in, the old RSVP building, can't say it, is no longer there. The demolition was completed in about 2 weeks' time. We were able to save the time capsule and the plaque that sat behind the time capsule there, sitting in the back parking lot. So there was some conversation at the November meeting about approving the conceptual plan. I'm here today to go over the details and answer any questions that the commission may have. The original goal of the project was to create a comfortably sloped, winding path that connected the square, excuse me, to the parking lot behind City Hall. We wanted to accommodate ADA without the use of a lot of railing. After working through the grading, we were able to maintain the steady slope from the front sidewalk right in front of Square Book Street Jr. to the back parking lot at a slope that did not exceed 4.5%. So just to put that in context, if you park in the parking garage on one of the ramps, that's about a 4% slope. So that's going to be about the same slope from front to back at our park. Just as the conceptual plan showed, we created flat spaces along the pathway to kind of promote different activities along the path. So we have, we moved the flat area that will serve as a stage. We're not really calling it a stage, but it's a flat area that could be a stage. We moved that to the front. We were asked to do that by a couple of people, and it makes sense to the front. So if there's overflow crowds, it can ease out into the street. You can see seat walls, which are in the highlighted in gray there, which will be seating throughout the park. And again, that main pathway will just be a steady slope, and those flat areas are noted on the plan. So that was a small change. What else? On the far east side of the space, which you have to go to the next page, we had to add 6 steps to the back, right where the parking lot meets the park, right here on the far east side. What we decided to do, we moved the proposed ADA ramp where it lines up with the existing ramp behind City Hall, so that if we have ADA spaces in the bottom parking lot, ADA access, which I don't have a pointer, but you can see the ADA, the existing ramp that we have that goes in the back City Hall, which is our primary ADA access. Now, if someone parks in that parking lot, they can either go through the park to the courthouse using that path, or they can go in the building. So I think it kind of lines up well with that. Another improvement that is not visible, but it's kind of interesting, we added stormwater detention chambers, which you can see on this plan. So we're gonna We're gonna detain half the stormwater from the roof and all the stormwater from the park on site. And we're gonna release it into an existing storm drain, which we're also gonna rebuild as a part of this. But again, that doesn't have a lot of effect on this commission. The path that I keep referring back to is going to be we've kind of come up with a half wash pea gravel concrete that we've used around the square where it's an aggregate concrete, but it's not fully washed. So it's kind of made to look like it's been around for a few years, but it's not slick. It has some cement texture to it, and we've used it throughout. Landscape and lighting are big parts of this project. As we've talked about probably before, half the site is really sunny most of the day and the other half is almost completely shaded. So we plan to add some large trees to be able to balance the sunlight so it's not so bright on one side. The plant material that we've specified is going to be diverse, and we'll have both evergreen and deciduous plant material that will have year-round interest. We've hired a electrical engineer to do a lighting plan to make sure that we have appropriate lighting at night, and they've done the candle watt study. We're going to utilize LED undermount lights under the lips of the seawall we're proposing to. We also will have Wi-Fi and GFCI outlets in some of those seawalls throughout. So generally speaking, the space will look similar, at least be consistent with the work done on East Jackson last summer. And so I'm not sure if y'all have spent time on some of that space, but we were proud of how that turned out, and we expect similar results in this park. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you. What questions? I have one about that stage. It's round, right? Am I looking at the right thing?
Yes, at the front.
How many people will fit on it? And I'm glad you moved it to the front.
I believe it's a 10-foot diameter, so 100 square feet. Just a few, I mean,
So
it's
kind
not
of like a couple performers, not
absolutely
a group, but
not a group.
so like not the junior high choir, but yes, a speaker or two.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's what it's been mostly used for before. Just wondered, like a podium, really.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I guess we're calling it a stage here, but it's not really a stage. It's just a flat area.
But it's elevated so that you can see the person from the parking lot.
Well, it's one riser above the grade. Everything else is dropping down and it's flat.
Okay.
We don't want to take it too high because you've got the Faulkner statue right next to it. So we don't want to block that.
I had a few questions. The fire escape coming down, it's going to hit that little landing. The stairs, as they continue down past that little landing, are those going to be steel fire escape sort of construction, or are they going to be more?
The existing fire escape will attach to the portico, the existing part of the building, and it will have stairs. Originally, this building had the stairs coming down the front, so you actually went to that porch to get in the city hall's office, or excuse me, city clerk's office right there. Right now, that's what we're planning on doing.
Okay.
So there will be about 3 or 4 steps behind the stage.
Right. Yeah, those are the ones I'm asking about in particular. Are those going to be steel fire escape sort of?
Well, we're using the
construction?
same ones we took out to match the existing.
Okay.
And we'd be open to doing something different. The problem is that's a historic structure, so we have to kind of maintain the integrity of that. In other words, we can't break it, I don't know that we'll be able to break.
Do a masonry stairs for the last few coming down?
And maybe, maybe we can talk to MDAH about that. It's not a bad idea, if you think.
You don't mean that the fire escape is historic, you don't want to block the historic building.
Well, I think in order to do the masonry, you'd have to close in that opening on that west side and it would change the whole feel. That's the thing about those steel steps. We're just going to tack them on the top.
Maybe it's a bad idea.
I'm hoping that we can hide that with landscape because it's not used.
Right.
It's a fire escape.
And you don't want to make it too inviting for people to.
Yeah, originally we were gonna turn it, so we were gonna come back, but we had to build a lot more steel structure than we wanted, and it just didn't make sense. It's really, if you go look at it now, the top of that porch is, the way the grade is now, it's only about 4 or 5 feet above the grade right there. So it's not.
My only other question was really not related to the park. I mean, I think it's great, and I like moving the stage up front, and I like the additional ramping that was required tucked back behind City Hall. I think that's great to like get all those railings and all that stuff out of the park. The only other question is just what's going to be done cleaning up the side of Square Books Junior. You know, where all the mastic and the roofing and the flashing and all that junk, I assume delicately cleaned up, brought back to brick.
Well, I mean, I think we're gonna do what we can, but I mean, it's a waterproofer that was put on that brick.
Right. It's pretty bad. I don't know if anybody else has went and saw the side of Square Books.
I haven't.
It's pretty rough looking. I mean, you can see the old roof and the old step line and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If it, you know,
It's actually not as bad as I thought it'd be. I had envisioned, but
Yeah.
I do think that landscape, I mean, that's our best option, I think. I know that I was down there with them scraping them. They pulled off what they can. I do worry about damaging the actual
Right.
brick itself. But
definitely would be a restoration project to try and
yeah,
clean that
and
up.
so we need to maybe look at that.
That's it. Otherwise, I think it's great.
I think we set out what we were attempting to accomplish. The only thing that, I mean, originally we wanted the slope all the way so we didn't have any steps at all. But what we kept running into is when you get to the very back, we just had to have a few steps there. And if you go to the next page, Kate, the second part, that one. But they're big 10-foot wide steps, and I think it opens up nicely. When you look down the path, obviously we didn't want a runway shot. I mean, you're gonna, really that tree right there, that planter is gonna be the focal point when you're looking at it from the other side. Because what we didn't want is when you're standing on Square looking down to be looking right at the parking lot.
Yeah, and what you did was,
It's your better view when you're traveling through, when you're headed west. And
yeah, and what you did was reduce the amount of steps. Without the sloping, it would have been a mountain of steps. So
yeah, that's right.
in a way, it not sloping all the way to the parking is kind of better because you're elevated above the parking. You know, you're not finishing your eye at cars.
And we will, I didn't mention this, we will have to move that chiller as a part of this project, which is kind of a big undertaking, but you can see the chiller, like, hey, we're gonna build the ramp around the chiller, so we're kind of killing two birds with one stone. And, you know, the intention is to have ADA spots right there so that if you park there, you can easily get in the back of the building or down the lower ramp or in the park within feet from where you're parking.
That reminds me of another question. Sorry, I said there were two. What's the wall around the chiller? Is it a brick wall?
It's gonna look very similar to what's
It's there
around
now? Okay.
the grease trap at the garage.
Grease trap at the garage. Oh,
It's gonna be it's gonna be that old colony brick with the stone capping. All the seat wall, it'll be the same materials as seat walls. Same brick we used on the garage. That's kind of turned into the Oxford brick for us.
What else?
The schedule, just if y'all are interested, is actually out to bid right now. We're opening bids in, I think, a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then we'll take it for the board if the prices, depending on what happens with the prices. And try to be finished with it by September.
Great. Are we gonna call it City Hall Park?
That's what we're calling it now.
Well, Ronzo's bas relief is in there. We can call it Ronzo Park.
There's what's in there?
His little, it's his face in relief. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Okay.
All right, Stuart, do you want to say anything about the cleaning up of the side of Square Books when we do this? When we do an approval? Or no?
You mean like make it a condition? No, I wouldn't need to,
Okay.
unless others want to.
Any other discussion, or do we have a motion?
Move we adjourn.
That would be good. All right, what first?
Oh, did we actually, did they need approval?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought this was another courtesy. Oh, sorry, apologies. Move we approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. And a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the motion passes. Thank you. We look forward to it. I like the construction fence too, the faux shrubbery. Yeah, it looks good. You fooled me.
Thanks.
It actually is not so bad compared to regular screen.
Yeah, I like it.
It already looks better than what was there.
Right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's gonna be nice.
Yes,
It is. Also, I think I get asked about 208 about once a week. Speaking of stormwater.
Did everybody enjoy the planning commission hearings for that?
I didn't listen, but I did read about
You
it.
should go watch
in the Eagle, but
Yeah, I would like to
update.
point out that this isn't on the agenda, so we do not need to have a discussion about an item that's not on the agenda, but I will tell you what happened. So, the stormwater variance that they were requesting was denied, so that project is not currently moving forward.
Okay.
y'all should go watch the planning commission. There was 2 of them. And I don't know the dates, but.
And then the Board of Aldermen,
Yeah, and then the board of
and it was appealed to the mayor board,
It was,
so.
it was spicy, yeah. I mean, it was a barn
dear.
burner. And I'm afraid we're gonna have a hole in the square for a long time to come.
We don't have any current applications for the,
Did they appeal to the board?
yes.
Did,
I bet it was spicy.
denied, yeah.
Okay.
So-
It was fiery.
For this commission, it's obviously, it's been over a year since we approved their plan. So I guess with no building permit, that means that they'll have to come before us again for reapproval for the same building.
Right, and you'll recall that there were some other elements of the design that they were going to come back for anyway, but you're right, the COA had expired, so were they granted the stormwater variance, they would have come back to this commission for reapproval of the entire design, as well as those items that were outstanding at the time. It was like the
Little things.
balcony, fennials,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So whatever does eventually go there will come to you guys, whether that's some semblance of the current design or a new design. So.
Is this stormwater issue difficult to solve? Is it? Yes.
Yeah, it's
I mean, until the
it's a
city-
thorny issue. Yeah.
Until the city steps up and, I think, jumps in
Yeah.
and fixes the situation, but that's not for this commission.
Okay.
Right.
Is there anything we can do to the back of Square Books? I mean, to finish it?
Maybe.
Yeah, and that would be better than what is there now. So how about it? Just the whole thing, boxwood.
That's a good. That point is well taken, and
No, I know.
you know we know how it looks. So,
Pocket Park.
yeah.
Plant some grass.
Back to the.
I mean, they did have a site restoration bond, right? I mean, at some point, could it be called in to at least plant some grass and remove the
I
fencing?
thought we did not have one.
Yeah, I thought,
Right,
I thought we're dead in the water to go anywhere.
We have since changed the rules after that.
That's right.
But
We didn't because we came forward with an ordinance, and then remember an ordinance draft, and then we didn't move forward with that.
Hey, this is Ben. I'll chime in if that's okay.
hi Ben.
Hey, no, Kate's right. We did not amend the ordinance, but I think, as we discussed previously, given the nature of that request for 208 and the imperative nature of the structural integrity and having to remove it, I think knowing what we know now, we would have a bond provided prior to the issuance of a demolition permit, but that was a very unique circumstance.
Right.
There were some issues with, I guess, the enforcement of that ordinance. There were, I mean, you probably remember.
I vaguely, but
I'm trying to
There
remember.
were, yeah, it was a while ago, but I think what Ben said is right. I don't think that would happen again in the same order that things happened with
right,
us.
so,
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever had a building determined by a structural engineer that was unsafe and needed to be removed
Right.
or taken down.
right, so Stuart asked the good question, is there anything that this commission can do to help the way it looks right now? Since it might be looking like that for a while.
I think we're evaluating those things right now, and where we're at. It's it was a discussion that was had in I think it was in February with the Planning Commission. That was the initial variance request to have no stormwater detention, followed by a tabled meeting that was heard again in March, and then that Planning Commission's denial of the variance request was heard, was appealed to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen, I think at the beginning of April. I think that's how the calendar worked out. And, so it's still fresh. I think the developer, has said that he's not planning to move, he's not moving forward with that design. That doesn't mean he's not planning to move forward with another design. I think everybody's still trying to evaluate, where we stand right now. And, we're hopeful that a building is constructed there. We would like to have one there, as you would, and that would solve the problem. I think they were prepared to move forward. They were already submitting materials to come back before y'all had the variance been granted, or they came up with a design that complied with the requirements. So I think we're just evaluating right now, and since it's still so soon, we're I think we're waiting to hear back from the developer and what their intent is at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
That's a very long response or long-winded answer to say, we can continue to, keep you posted as to, the circumstances, and if anything comes up that y'all might be able to do to assist us with, shoring up the back of that building.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Anything from staff?
No.
Okay.
It's not. I'm working with MDAH to plan a training here in August, so we don't have a date set yet.
In Oxford?
Uh-huh.
Right.
So that means you won't need people to go down to Jackson?
No, we did get one bite on the HPC. Aaron's going to boot camp, but someone from this commission will need to attend training, but hopefully it'll be easier since we'll have it either probably at the Belfry or at the conference center. So we're still working the details out on that. So.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Thank you. We
So
are adjourned.
Andy, I'm no lawyer, but it seems like the